That was an awful clap, but I did it.
It's fine.
It's just a very flat sound. Okay.
Yeah, mine was weird. I hit here.
Yeah, I had the microphone kind of right there, and I was like, oh jeez, and that threw me all off.
Weird claps. Okay. I'll bring us in 5 seconds. We're doing this as episode 40 or episode 41?
This is 40.
Okay.
Then the other one will go up as episode 40 bonus or 39.5. I'll find something clever.
We'll figure it out. Hello and welcome to the YASEcast. We are coming at you live. This is episode number 40. And I'm very happy to be here. I, of course, am Nick. Joining me today, I have Morgan.
Hey, what's up?
I was like, oh no, is my mic muted? and we have returning guest Juliana.
Hi, welcome back to me. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome back to me. And
I was going to say welcome back, but I'm just a guest, so I'm not really welcoming you. You're welcoming me. I just got excited, so that was a little silly.
Yeah, everyone here is welcome. All are welcome. We're back. We're here. 2 weeks ago, we came out an episode. We talked about idols. We ended that saying, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna do a rewatch, or in my case, a first watch of Idolmaster season 1." And that's what we're here to fucking talk about. So to be completely upfront honest, we literally just all watched the end of season 1 of Idolmaster together. Literally, maybe finished it 5-10 minutes ago. It is very fresh. We are full of idol energy right now. So you're getting the raw, uncut, the pure. Do we even want to do check-ins, or we just want to jump into it?
I'm fine just jumping into it. I was just going to check in about this anyway. It's what I've been thinking about all week.
I've been sprinting towards it already. Let's go.
Hell yes. Okay. Let's talk about fucking Idolmaster, y'all.
All right.
There is so much to start. So I kind of want to give, as mentioned, as a newcomer to it, incredibly enjoyed it.
Yay!
Had a blast. It ended up doing a lot of things that I was kind of surprised about. Namely that there were a lot of story threads from earlier episodes that worked its way into things later on in the season. And obviously, as we haven't finished, there's still 13 episodes to go technically. I'm kind of expecting to see a little bit more of that happen as well. But it was just things that I hadn't kind of considered. And now I see why people are saying, hey, even divorced from anime culture, it's a very well-made anime.
Yeah.
And I can totally see why people say that.
It is an incredibly good show. And I think I might have been the person that even said that, because it is one of those things where once I sit back and I think about, there was a meme a while back where people were making 3x3 spreads of what are your top 9 series of all time. This was one of the first ones I thought of. Even apart from idols and everything else, I just adore this series, adore its characters, and I went back and was able to vicariously rewatch or watch for the first time with my partner who had never seen it before, and see her go through the entire arc of, I don't really know if I like this. I don't know if this is for me. I don't really get idols, to I love this and I'm fully committed to this right now.
There is a reason that I tend to recommend the Idolmaster to people who are new to idol anime and want to see what it is all about. I really can't say enough good about it. And I think I'm curious how you feel about this, Nick. Do you feel this show answered some of your questions from the last time we were all talking about this together as to what idols are all about? Do you feel like you have a better understanding of what an idol is after all this?
I would definitely say so, and I think, oh my god, there are a lot of things that I'm trying to process. Still coming down off of the high of just finishing that.
Well, restart yourself.
But yeah,
and
there's definitely a better idea as far as not only on the show business side of what are idols and what do they do, but then also the kind of interesting, hey, what makes an idol as opposed to just someone who is a pop singer or in a band or something like that. And so that was kind of cool to see. And it's something I didn't really even kind of think about until just now when you asked that question, I was like, shit, yeah, no, I guess that does make a lot of sense. Fuck. Sorry, I have so many thoughts
it's okay.
going on right now.
That's how it is after you watch episode 13 for the first time. That's how I was too. I had to go have a little lie down back in 2011, like, whoa.
So
I need to get a glass of cold water, cool down.
Fan yourself dramatically.
I needed a tissue. I was crying.
It's a good episode. It's a good episode of a good series. It caps off a lot of really interesting themes and a lot of like first time I watched it, unexpectedly well developed drama and storylines. Mm-hmm. So I have a kind of a question building off of that again for Nick. Apart from having questions answered, do you have new questions?
Damn, that's a good question.
It is. It's one of them.
I don't... Oh, man. Part of me has questions about more of the show business side of things, and some of that is probably going to be more commentary and maybe... Episode, was it 3 or 4? Is it where they're on the
4.
frog
I can
show?
see the face you're making, and it's 4. I already know.
Show. Yeah.
Yeah, the cooking show. And that's kind of, and I guess this probably isn't a question about idol culture, but it's just something about the show that I have had a question about. And I guess it kind of ties back into Japanese entertainment culture too, though, which is, so to give a recap, as we mentioned, that is the one where they're on the frog themed cooking show, and there's a lot of like really gross camera shots, and it's one thing to have, and this is honestly the one episode that I was really not happy with on the show. This is the only like real negative point that stands out about the show to me. The show goes out of its way in this episode not just to like have like, oh, here's like a panty shot or whatever of a character, but it has hey, we're gonna draw the cameraman going in for the panty shot, which is like, it's gross already, but it's like there's another level of gross for them to show that. And so when I was watching that, my first thought was, okay, is this going to be more of a commentary on Japanese entertainment culture? Is this going to be something where they kind of have to like, is it going to be talked about? Right? Are we going to have this conversation about how, hey, the entertainment industry is still like very predatory, and especially considering that these are young girls. Like, it's easy to kind of forget with some of the characters. Like, some you can tell, like, okay, these are young, but like leading up to the last episode, I was like, oh, like Miki's like a young adult, right? Like, she's, you know, she's pretty much like an adult woman, and then it's like the one person's like, no, Miki's like 15, and
Miki's
I was like,
oh,
15. Fuck. Like, this is like you know, you completely forget, and so it's just, it feels predatory. And then there's a point where Chihaya walks off the show visibly upset at what's going on, how she's being treated, how like just how kind of skeevy it is, and the producer's like, huh, what's wrong? And it's like, my guy, what do you mean what's wrong?
The show frames it more as like she's upset about not being able to sing and that they made changes to the schedule last minute, and not that there's a skeevy cameraman that's trying to take pictures of her underwear. And I had the same reaction rewatching it, and I kind of had blocked out that happens in that episode, but watching with my partner, I was like, I'm uncomfortable, and like I had the same reaction knowing that where the episode goes, that I wish it didn't walk back from that, and at least even said like, hey, that's bad, or that makes someone uncomfortable, instead of being like, oh no, it was just, she was really upset that she didn't want it, that about the singing, and then they kind of just ignore that this cameraman shoved his camera up Haruka's skirt.
I do wish, because Ritsuko can tell immediately watching the broadcast that Chihaya is not doing well, and because Ritsuko was an idol before and arguably ran this entire gamut herself already, I really wish they had had a scene together to kind of talk about that. I think they would have been a really interesting pair to discuss that with, you know, it's easy to kind of like put the producer on one side because he's coming in solely from the business, but Ritsuko's in such an interesting position as a character, having already graduated as an idol to a staff member. I really would have loved a bit more from her on that.
I totally forgot that was her background too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would have been really interesting. That would have been such a cool dynamic to like explore. To have her take less of not essentially less of like a manager position, but more of like a big sister kind of position of like, hey, you know, I've had to deal with all of like this really awful things, and like I don't want to see that happen to you. You know,
right?
That would have been a really interesting dynamic to see. I would really like to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's easy to put the producer off to one side and have him understand. For the record, I guess I always read that episode as the comments about the singing being not only about like, oh, I just wanted to sing, but like, why am I here making an absolute fool out of myself and my friends are being harassed? This isn't my job.
Mm-hmm.
This is my job.
This isn't what
now?
I signed up for. Yeah, I signed up because I wanted to sing and I want to perform, and this is just like...
It's also weird. I feel I'm actually, you know, when I went back to that episode, I knew that was coming, and I was like, okay, here we go. I think I actually would have walked away from it feeling a little bit less negative if it wasn't for, literally, they do this gag 4 times in the episode. I counted 4 times. And the last one is like a slow pan up their legs. I almost prefer them cutting to the camera because at least it puts the focus on like the inherent voyeurism of it, as opposed to episodes 1 and 5, the beach episode, which is like, haha, Chihiya's mad because the other girls have boobies and she doesn't. I feel like I rackled at a rewatch at that even more so than some of the like shitty entertainment industry stuff. That being said, though, episode 4 also puts in like funny comedic sound effects whenever Haruka falls over. So like, as much as I want to say they're doing a good job at calling attention, like, yeah, no, here we don't actually have the panty shot. You have a shot of Chihiya's face looking absolutely boiling furious. It's not cute. It's not funny. She's super pissed off. But then the next time they do it, it's like, blong! Because Haruka falls over. So as much as I wanted to give it goodwill at first for being like, okay, they're humanizing these characters, they kind of dump all that goodwill like 3 seconds later and then do it 2 more times. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. In the last one, it's... sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead, Nick.
No. I'm just making frustrated noises at this episode.
In the last one, the Chihiya and Haruka both fall. And I think one of the things Juliana just brought up, and that I really like, and it's also something that comes up periodically throughout the series, and especially in that first episode, is that they shift and they draw attention to the fact that there is a camera there, and that there is a person holding that camera. It comes up a lot of the introduction episode that I think is really good, and it plays it up like this is sort of like a weird home movie feel. But in episode 4, I really like that and I wish that they had gone a little bit harder on that first time that Haruka falls, because it doesn't show her. It switches to a perspective from her back, and you see the cameraman's face, and the focus is on, no, there is a guy here who is trying to stick a camera up this 15-year-old girl's skirt. And you see her friend behind her looking disgusted. And then the series walks back from it. It's something that I know we've said in the group chat. And if you look forward to our upcoming Idol podcast, where we talk about Wake Up Girls, it's also a frustration with that series. Where it kind of says the thing, but then doesn't say the thing.
I'm gonna hold off because I think Wug actually walks back in twice a way. I almost feel less mad about IMAS in retrospect, having gone through Wug, because I recognize that, like, wow, for them to even call attention to the fact that there's staff making these decisions is a lot harder than a lot of comparative shows go on drawing attention to the role of the staffer and how these performers are framed. I really think maybe Idolish 7 is the only one that comes close in terms of the exploitation angle, although that's another talk for another podcast when it comes to Idolish 7.
Look forward to that, the Idolish 7 Watch series on our upcoming Idol episodes.
Yes, we are cross-promoting like crazy. I did also want to bring up, so I actually did a deep dive into the staff on this show because I'm familiar with the director, Atsushi Nishigori, who is famous for a lot of his work with Gainax, later Trigger. He is the character designer for Gurren Lagann.
A lot of things make sense now.
Doesn't it, though? When you realize the culture that a lot of these staff members have kind of been broiling in, not to make excuses for it, but you're like, oh yeah, I don't know what I expected. Yeah. Frankly, this is a lot more reserved than what I'd expect, to be honest. There actually is a lot more thoughtfulness on display here, huh? But interestingly enough, the woman in charge of the series composition and some of the scripts was Toko Machida, who in fact did series composition on Wake Up Girls. So that made a ton of sense in retrospect. I was like, oh, all right.
It's all coming together.
We're sitting here. It's
There's also
the Always Sunny meme with the things, but it's all idols on the board. Just like,
that's exactly.
That's how I feel when you look up the staff and realize how many have like also worked on Pre-Para and Aikatsu. It really is me on the board. Like, oh my god, this was my. Oh man, they boarded this episode. Oh man, in episode 7 got subcontracted out to Trigger, and so did that bit on the variety show. Oh, that's why it looks like that.
It's all connected.
There was also a lot of there was some former Kyoto Animation staff on Idolmaster as well, so I feel like when you realize somebody who worked on K-On! Did a lot of this show, you realize, yeah, it has the same girls hanging out kind of vibes.
That's
to
another show I really need to watch.
Look forward to our K-On! Podcast.
I was about to say, can we put, like, K-On! Is music, it's idol adjacent.
Wait, we'll put it in there. It goes in there. They're idols.
Okay,
They're
idols. It's going in there. Everything, all roads lead back to idols.
All roads are idols. Everything is idols. We're idols, actually.
We are idols, yes. Net idols, online.
Pod idols.
Pod idols.
No.
So I think maybe we should dial it back a little bit here. And what exactly is Idolmaster? I'm curious. Anyone can take this, but in case, dear listener, if you haven't listened to this before and you don't really and have any idea what Idolmaster is, one of us is going to pitch you on it right now and try to explain what this series is or about.
It's my life. I gotta go last. It's my life. I need a minute.
All right. I got this. There are 3 levels. There are 3 different 3 different levels at which I can describe Idolmaster. Level 1, Takane vibes.
That's
level
vibe.
1. Level 2, and I'm so mad that I left my notes about the show at work because I think I kind of. I think in some ways I kind of hit the nail on the head, and I hate to say that about something that I wrote, especially when I'm like a newbie on it. But I feel
this is a bragging zone.
This feels like it sums up what I really felt about it and why it was so appealing. Because that was kind of one of the things I asked too in our previous episode was, hey, what's really the appeal to you, you know? And on some level, Idolmaster is about people who are not only working hard to achieve their dreams and their goals, but they're working out what those dreams and goals mean to them. And when you see them succeed, when you see them stumble, probably even more important than seeing them succeed, it resonates with you as in the same way that you have succeeded and stumbled in your life. And you eventually you see the culmination of all their hard work. And it, like I said, that resonates so strongly. When you see, so leading up to that last episode, everyone is working themselves fucking ragged trying to get ready for this concert. People are bumping, they're visibly exhausted in practice. They're mentally exhausted, and they're still trying to push through and make sure they're going to be ready in time. And so seeing that, and then seeing, you know, the typhoon in the last episode, like everything that could be going wrong is really going wrong. And regardless, I mean, obviously it ended up being a successful show in the end of it. But even without that, the fact that they got to the finish line is so incredibly endearing. It is about people working towards their goals and all the things that happen from, while they're trying to get there. That is such a fucking long answer.
That's about as good as it can get. And at a little...
so I have my last level.
Get to it. I want to know.
It's Takane vibing again.
Takane vibing in the frog head.
When she's just in this, honestly, the saving grace of the frog cooking episode is Takane carrying a frog costume head around with her everywhere, and they're like, you can't fit it back with you, and she's just like, but why? Like, the producer just opens the door to see her staring at herself with the frog head on. There's the scene is about 5 seconds, and it's peak comedy. It's literally as funny as it was in 2011 to me. It's so funny.
Everything about her in that episode is outstanding. Like, when she first takes the head off, and she's like, I never thought I'd wear something this ridiculous. And they're like, well, do you like it? And then it just slow pan around her. She just, Kero.
So, me being the IMAS scholar here, I'm gonna drop some trivia. So, there's a song, it was actually created for beautiful Katamari. Yes, the Katamari Xbox 360 game called Danketsu, which is all of the girls introducing themselves and then singing about togetherness. That's what Danketsu is. It's unity. That's also Idolmaster. It's about unity. And Takane's verse, like, everybody has their thing, like, Yayoi's is like, I'm poor and I'm working my hardest, and Hibiki's is like, I have a lot of pets, and Amimami is like, we want to be on TV, and then it gets to Takane's, and she just stops singing, and it's just an instrumental for 15 straight seconds, and she goes, the rest is top secret. It's just, I'm Shijo Takane.
I'm glad you brought up Danketsu. That song rules.
It's so good. It's like 11 minutes long, and
that's what she does in her intro in like episode 1, isn't it? Isn't it like they're like doing like the idol interviews, and she's like, I can't tell you that. That's top secret. And they're like, haha, that's a funny bit, and she's like, what bit?
She's from the moon. She's the moon princess.
She's probably
also, I love that episode. I think it's when they're going to the beach in episode 5, where, like, she's waving at the billboard lady, because she doesn't know it's a billboard. I love her so much.
Oh god, one last thing I need to get in, since we're talking about Takane. So, speaking of that, like, episode 12, everyone's, like, working themselves ragged, and there's, like, a montage of, like, them all working at night. Takane's is just her standing on the top of a building, staring at the full moon, and I'm just like, yeah, no, this works.
Beaming back home.
There's one section later that I think you'll appreciate, where she has an entire episode where it's left very ambiguous whether or not she's actually an alien.
I love her.
She's also a cop, so we'll see how your feelings might change.
Ooh, don't do this to me now. I'm riding the high. Let me.
We're warning you. So it doesn't hit you too hard.
All right. So I guess my take, and what I was more thinking, and although I like your interpretation way more, is that like Idolmaster as a series is an idol anime about 13 girls and their management staff going from being like weird starter idols, rising through their careers, and then the trials and tribulations that go along with stardom, and how those. But I think Danketsu is a great way of really encapsulating it. And it's about the ways that working in this industry and achieving their goals and navigating what their goals mean, both to themselves and each other, both brings them closer together, and also in some ways, as maybe we get into season 2, challenge that and pull people apart. Where maybe you're going up for an audition with someone else that you used to work with, and only one of you can get this part. And all of a sudden, your success is no longer a shared success. And how is that going to reflect on your relationships? And are you still really going to be friends when all of a sudden you're forced to be rivals?
That's some of my favorite parts of the series too. It's a very complete picture, and I think the successive seasons with their successive casts have really fleshed out those ideas built by the first original series about shared success versus individual success, shared goals versus singular goals. And the process you take working in an industry that is at its heart a competition for better or for worse. So I do really agree with that too. That's also a great point. And I'm happy that Morgan, you highlighted the staff as well, because truly the producer is kind of just as much of a complete newbie as the idols themselves are. Even Ritsuko, who is the experienced one, just got into this management role recently, she says in the first episode. So everybody is kind of at the same pace of learning. Everybody is making mistakes, and everybody is just trying to do their best at the end of the day.
And there's a whole episode about it in the first season where the producer keeps mismatching people. And the roles, because he's desperately trying to achieve and hit his own goals, and he wants to be a good producer, but in doing so neglects that sense of unity, and he's not actually listening to what people want to do. He ends up sending Takane to that Lolita photo shoot. There's really an interesting sense, and I think that's so interesting for a series that started as a game. I'm sure players also had that same experience of, okay, I'm gonna train my idols every week and they're gonna blow everybody out of the water, stats rise. Oh my god, I've made them really, really upset. They're super tired, they don't want to do anything, and because I overworked them. So I really love that episode, not only as a good part of the story, a necessary part of the story, really, but also something that I think a lot of longtime fans who came from the arcade game or its Xbox port probably were like, I've been there. I've been the bad producer. I have definitely treated, my idols not as people with their own thoughts and wants, but as, instruments for my job. Mm-hmm. So there's one bit of lore that might be worth dropping here. That there is one particular character in the game, and the only way you can really get a game over state, as far as I know, in those games and overworking someone, is if you overwork Chihaya and she just stops working. The Chihaya death spiral.
I'm so happy you brought that up, because I thought that would be a little bit too deep for this podcast, but you've started, so I'm taking it and I'm running with it.
The series gets into it, and I think does a great job adapting it.
It does. The series does an amazing job of adapting it, and honestly, the Chihaya death spiral, as the fans have dubbed it, Chihaya is, for the record, in the original games, the hardest character to produce.
Really?
So there's mechanics in the first game where idols' mood will increase or decrease depending on what happens in the game. Some of it is random. Sometimes you just say good morning to them the wrong way and they're like, I don't know about that one, producer. Sometimes you say the wrong thing during a story scene and they feel upset, but it can also extend as far as lessons. Now, Yayoi, as long as you have a normal lesson, she feels great. If Chihaya does not do perfect in her lesson, she feels bad. Ritsuko and Iori also have similar debuffs where if they do just okay, they'll get kind of down about it. But Chihaya's is the worst. So you can definitely get into the Chihaya death spiral where she feels bad because you've overworked her, and now she's not doing good at her lessons, and now she feels bad because she's not doing good at her lessons, but she still has to go to work, so she feels worse and worse and worse, and just stops. It's one of the best marriages of mechanical stuff versus a really darn good storyline about just overwork and burnout that I've ever experienced in a game, and I really can't praise it enough. It's really good. This is also why I've never done a full Chihaya run. I cannot bring myself to let her down.
You can.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm looking at it right now. I'm on the page for Chihaya on the IMAX wiki. And yeah, in the arcade version of the game, Chihaya's move was extremely unstable with very low tension gains and high tension losses. If the player failed to greet her properly in the morning, or didn't get a good lesson or a perfect communication, her tension would fall all the way down to low and stay there for a while. This is known to fans as the Chihaya spiral. Holy shit.
Yeah. And as we get into season 2, it becomes more evident, but I think you've already started to get little elements of that with her as a character. When Haruka spends the night at Chihaya's place, everything is still in boxes, even though she's been living there for however long she's been living.
Yep.
When they're back on the variety show, it's like that. Everyone else is fine, but she is so deeply affected by stuff that she is a character that has a lot of passion, and as a product of that is also very impacted by the things that are happening around her. It's the way that they translated that element from the game, like Juliana was saying, that this started as a game, into the narrative of the character for this show. It's just chef's kiss, just mwah, mwah, kiss fingertips.
I love that shot of her just kind of listening to music alone during the credits roll, laying in her bed, eyes wide open at the end of, I believe it's episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really evocative shot. They put their all into the endings for this show. There's a lot of good character work, really, even just at the end, every time.
I kind of noticed that halfway through, because a lot of times, like, okay, I've seen the closing animation, like, I can, same with, like, the opening. A lot of times I'm like, I know what it is. It's great, but I want to watch the show. Then halfway through, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Fuck, I gotta go back. I gotta watch these again.
Oh, you do?
Not this time. They're all different. I love Kisaragi Chihaya so freaking much. She's such a good character. Is it too early
for us to get into who are our favorites?
I think it's never too early, because I've been gushing about this character for 10 years and I will never stop.
Go for it.
You must.
Go for it right now, Morg.
So,
just jump in.
All right. I'm a co-host of this podcast. I'm going off. I've been sitting on this for many years. My favorite character from the series, and has been for since I first watched in 2011. So it's not been 10 years. I'm a Yukiho P. I've been a Yukiho P for 10 years, and I will never stop.
You say
I will never say, and I've been given shit in my time. People tell me that Yukiho is annoying. People tell me that Yukiho she needs to get up and just pull up her bootstraps and stop being anxious. And you know what? I'm here to say no. No, because something that Nick said earlier, it really got to me, and it's like
I was looking around like.
No, not about you bashing Yukiho. No, about how one of the important parts, which I don't think that I didn't see, one of the most important parts about this series is that you get to also see the characters fail, and Yukiho, I think, is a very interesting perspective on that, because something that even in that, when they're coming up to the concert and everyone's stressed out, Takane says something to Yukiho about how she needs to overcome herself or break out of herself, which is really the crux of her character. What we see from the jump is that her biggest obstacle is herself. She's afraid of men. She's afraid of dogs. She's always catastrophizing, which is built up that whenever something goes wrong, she tries to bury herself in a hole, which is also an allusion to the fact that her dad works in construction and is definitely in the Yakuza. Construction, air quotes.
Quote, unquote.
She's definitely a Yakuza princess as well.
Construction.
So it's one of those bits that, on a personal note, when we talked about the primer, the emphasis of wanting to identify with someone, when I watched this series 10 years ago, I don't talk about this a lot, but I have had a lifelong struggle with an anxiety disorder. And so when I watched that 10 years ago, seeing a character that would say something like, I want to bury myself in a hole, it, as funny as it was, I was like, ha ha ha, I do that. And then seeing through the course of this character have this arc of failing and of blaming herself, even when everyone's screwing up in those lessons, and Takane says that to her, she's on the cusp of dropping out of the concert because she can't get the choreography right, and even though she's busting her ass for it, she would rather just drop out and quit rather than hold anyone else down or be a burden. So I don't know, I vibe with that character in ways that are sometimes difficult for me to talk about. And it feels goofy because she's oftentimes portrayed as a joke, but seeing a character get in her own way and struggle to overcome that, I don't know, and I always loved it. And so that is my forever idol is Yukiho in this character, in this game, in this series, and everything that it is. And I will fight you.
Something I always liked about Yukiho's portrayal, especially once I rewatched this, not as kind of an older teenager, but as an adult, paying more attention to the narrative. I really love Yukiho kind of sort of gets done dirty by the episode placement. Her character focus episode is 3.
Yeah.
And then we don't see as much of her throughout the rest of the first core, except for in the group scenes, comparatively. So she gets right out of the gate. But I really like that she has this big moment, and she puts on her makeup. She goes, all right, fake it till you make it, and goes and screams into the microphone and has her big kind of confidence moment, but that doesn't fix her. I think a lot of lesser shows with an ensemble cast like this would probably say, and Yukiho went on stage and she yelled into the microphone, and now she's cured. She feels great. She can pet dogs and talk to guys, and everything's fine now. But it really isn't, it's something that takes her a lot to do, and she can't just do that on command anytime she feels like it. She still has a lot of hurdles left to climb. Yeah. There's times where she falls back into her old anxieties. I like it.
Like with anything, it's 100% a process. Like it's something that you work on and you're mindful of. And so I actually really appreciated that it wasn't like, oh, and now, I can talk to and be around guys, like, no problem. It's like, no, that would be doing a disservice to her and to people who have anxieties. And I thought that portrayal was really key.
Yeah, it's really good. And we were doing the little dog thing from episode 3. It's a goofy thing, but it gets to the idea of it being a process. And then the outro is her like showing Chihaya and Haruka like, oh, look at this like goofy thing. I mean, it's a compensatory measure. Sweet. It's a thing that people with anxiety do. You build up these management strategies, and maybe it's not intentional, but it was something that really mapped to an experience that I've had. And also, Little Match Girl is a banger, and her version of Cosmos Cosmos is the best. So,
but do you like her first seiyuu, Yurina Hase's Cosmos Cosmos the best, or her current actress Azumi Asakura's Cosmos Cosmos?
I like them both.
They're both very good.
If I have to pick one, if you're going to make me make this choice, I would say the current version of Cosmos Cosmos.
Oh, I'm a Yurina fan, but that's okay.
It's okay,
because
I am too.
Each other.
You forced this choice on me.
I know, because it hurts me, so I have to share that. I have to make someone else make the choice. But now I know that we are in balance.
Yes, we are.
It's perfect, as all things should be. Wonderful. All right, who should go next?
Do you want to go next, or should I go next? Because I don't have a simple answer. I don't have one that's my favorite.
It's hard to.
That's okay.
Let's make it a top 3. I'll throw out 2 more. Takane, I think it's like the free space on Bingo. I don't know how you don't like that character.
Yeah. It's impossible to not love Takane, I feel like.
I don't know how you dislike an IMAS character, like, especially from All Stars. I can't bring myself. I can't.
I'm in that boat, too. It was the first time when I was a pedantic Philistine and I watched it, I was trying to think like, oh, that character sucks. No, they're all great, actually.
No, they're all good.
Number 3, I would probably say Chihaya. I think Chihaya, Takane, and Yukiho have pretty consistently been that top 3.
That's a good one.
Honorable mention to actual Angel Yayoi.
I didn't even see you do the same motion, but...
Dear listener, I said Yayoi, and both Juliana and Nick just like covered their hearts and did a big sigh.
Precious bean. Precious child.
Precious bean sprout. Bean sprout party.
Bean sprout party.
I will let you go ahead first. We will
Yayoi
we will
made
sandwich.
Me not say stop hating the poor with the powers of bean sprouts. Oh God. Okay. I can't narrow it down to 3. I have 4, but I will say
allowed
in no order. Yayoi is on there.
I can't narrow it down to 4. I have 13.
I respect the shit out of Yayoi for constantly trying to take care of her family. And always, like, she's working her ass off both as an idol, but then also as, like, the eldest sibling of a family. And she's always trying to put food on the table, and, like, she's doing a lot. It's impossible to not love Yayoi. You can't not love her.
It's true.
Again, free space, it's Takane. She is just the number 1 vibes dealer. You cannot... she's vibing hard, and I salute her for it. Oh man, these two are like dead even for me, and it is between Hibiki and Makoto. They are both just fucking A+ characters. And they're both like kind of that more like tomboyish type, which is an archetype that, and maybe Makoto's not as much of a tomboy necessarily. I feel maybe Hibiki maybe more kind of falls into more of that role.
Hibiki is a cryptid.
Yeah. She's here to like cry and cause problems.
Oh, she's great. She has all her animal friends. She has Hamzo,
I love that feral child,
who's just constantly hanging out. I was a little sad we didn't get a Hamzo-centric episode. I want to have just Hamzo just like...
Look forward to it.
Oh.
Hold your tongue.
Hell yes.
Hibiki has a centric episode coming up.
So there's also a really good at the end of episode 3, I think it was, when they were leaving that kind of like a farm town for their first like concert. Hibiki was crying while having to say goodbye to like, I think she was hugging a cow specifically.
Yeah.
And I fucking love cows. I think how like, because I live out in the middle of nowhere in the Great Plains, so I pass by cows and I'm just like, cows.
Ganaha Hibiki, a friend to all creatures.
Friends to all creatures. And then Makoto is just like, she's just fucking cool. She's just badass. Also, I think it's really funny to have the character that's like all the female character that all the other female characters, at least a lot of them, have crushes on.
She turns a woman gay.
Yeah. And I think we got that, God, during the like sports episode.
Yeah,
but I like her.
You know she's a girl, right? I don't care anymore.
She's about to like talk shit, and then she comes over and she's like, use my handkerchief.
Yeah.
Like, here. But Makoto is just like the fucking coolest. When Chihaya got kidnapped, she's fighting off dudes 3 times her age, 5 times her size, and like fighting on top of ladders that are over the street, punching dudes through windows. I'm not even exaggerating. That's literally what happens.
The best.
No, Makoto, she's so fucking cool. She's cool shit. I love all these characters. They're great.
They're so good.
Please also look forward to the Makoto episode. It's very good.
Oh god, it's so good. That's the one that they contracted out to Trigger, I believe.
Oh, really?
So, I didn't know that one was like entirely to them. I looked it up, and like Sushio of like Little Witch Academia was talking about working on it. I know that I don't think they had a huge part in it, but a lot of the staff members that you would know, like there's an episode,
Combat choreography by Trigger.
There's a part of an episode coming up that the director of Promare and the like worked on, and as soon as you get to it, you're gonna go,
oh,
there it is. Like, at first I was like, Imaishi worked on this? And then I saw the credit and I was like,
of course.
Duh.
I think I already know what you're talking about.
You can like DM me after so we don't spoil the
I don't want to
surprise,
spoil it, but
I'm
I think I know.
Curious to know. I'm pretty sure you do. So, okay, my favorites. My top idol, my Kamiyoshi, if you will, my god tier Oshimen, as they say in the idol world, my Kamiyoshi, is Yayoi. It's always been Yayoi. Yayoi got me into Idolmaster. My formative Idolmaster experience was, I was at a convention and I played this game. I played this Wii game. It was basically Just Dance, but with like J-pop music.
Okay. And
Go My Way was on it. And I was like, oh, this is a good song. I like playing this little Just Dance clone. And Go My Way, what's this? And I looked it up and I listened to Yayoi's solo of it and I was like, she's wonderful. And then the anime was airing at the time and I was like, she's wonderful. And then I played the game back when I knew about 3 hiragana and how to say hello and goodbye. That was all the Japanese I knew. I was playing it with a guide. I was just matching the characters up to one another from the wiki. And I was like, she's wonderful. It's always been Yayoi. I think she is such a sweet, hardworking character. One look at her is enough to make you want to try your very best. I love what a good big sister she is, but I love that, she's so competent and capable at home, and, she cleans basically, like, she is the cleaning service for the entire office. There's all those scenes in episode 1 of her, picking up the garbage and doing all this and all that, and she still has time to figure out, like, oh, when is the supermarket 1 hour limited time sale where all the meat is half off. She's so good at what she does, but she still has those moments where she doesn't feel very confident in herself, And I just love that multifaceted side of her. I love that she always tries her best. I love her big smile. I love her little catchphrase, her little it's so cute. She is so energetic and sweet, and I can't look at her without smiling. She's the best. She's my favorite idol. She's the best.
It's really funny you brought up the cleaning thing, because at the beginning of one of the episodes, I can't remember which one it was, but there's like a TV crew at Minase's house or whatever, and when she realizes how big Minase's house is, her comment is just, "Oh, that must take so long to clean."
It's absolutely like, yeah. She's so practical and sweet. I think she's the best. I love seeing her. This isn't relevant to the show, but in Million Live, which keeps the original girls and adds about 39 newcomers to bolster the 765 roster, there's quite a few younger idols. So whereas Yayoi is one of the younger ones of the core group of original characters, she gets to play big sister, senpai idol to the younger girls. It's so sweet. I love it so much. She's the best. Rounding up my top 3, I'm also going to put in a vote for Makoto. I think she's just wonderful. I think she's the coolest. I love her distinctive singing voice. Mm-hmm. I love her solos. And I think Makoto, I know that trope of tomboyish character who wants to be girly is kind of overdone in anime, and it's not always done very gracefully. A lot of it is very, pink boy, pink girl, blue boy kind of hobby dichotomy. I think Makoto is a lot deeper than just that. She's one of, she's really well executed, and she feels a lot like how I felt growing up. She reads these shoujo comics, and, they're girly and silly, but she really loves them. She loves dresses and frilly things, but she's really good at sports and, karate and stuff, and those are 2 parts of her that come together to make a really interesting character. And I like that, I also, on the one hand, I also read trashy romance comics, and I also watch, like, a horror movie a month, and then watch some guy get his head chainsawed off, and I'm like, yes, wonderful, the arc of the blood, yes. So
I think what's actually really cool about that, and I didn't think about this before, there's definitely, she wants to be more feminine, but she doesn't see the things that she likes and that she's good at as, they're not mutually exclusive. She can still enjoy the things that she does and that she likes, while still also saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I do want to kind of change up my wardrobe a little bit. Like, that's something I can do, but I don't have to sacrifice the things that I do already like also.
Yeah, she grows her hair out, actually, from game 1 to game 2. It's a little bit longer now. And, like, she's a little embarrassed about a TV crew filming her with her girly comics, but in the office, she's just happy to read them. She has her big sparkle eyes and is like, oh, I love it. I think she's very well-rounded. I love that about her. Again, just honestly, I feel like I keep repeating it, but every character, you can really draw a clear through line to any archetype you've seen in, a Galgay or another anime when it comes to IMAS, but Idolmaster really goes the extra mile in developing these characters really hard. I also like that Makoto loses her cool quite a bit in stressful situations. We just saw in that last episode that she kind of butts heads with Hibiki, and I like that, there's these scenes where she's the type who's very competent. She's here, she's ready to do her job, but also when things kind of go off kilter, she's kind of like, whoa. But also, she can karate chop a man 5 times her size. Yeah. And defeat him.
I like everything you brought up, and it's something that I was thinking about rewatching this, and that my Philistine perception when I was kind of looking at Makoto is like, oh, she wants to be less tomboyish. But that's not it. She doesn't dislike what she likes. It's that she do be containing multitudes, and that the show gives the space and development time for that to be expressed. And that she does kind of butt heads with sort of the pigeonhole that she's kind of put into. And that we get to see with the front stage and the backstage of these characters that she has all these interests, and that she has things that she doesn't see as mutually exclusive, but the roles that she is asked to take might put her in those positions or ask her to make those decisions. Like when they do the wedding photo shoot in that episode, and she's like, I'd like to wear a dress too, but no, she's being asked to wear a tuxedo because they're like, well, you can do that. And that's your public image.
That's the image you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I agree. And, you know, she talks about this is like something that her dad forced on her. It's been like this her whole life. And then she gets into this work to, you know, explore herself and all of her options. And she's kind of stuck doing the same stuff. But you're right. You know, she do be containing multitudes. It's not that she's like, baseball sucks and I want to quit sports and I hate it. It's that, you know, I'm really mad my dad wouldn't let me just like buy a doll once in a while. Come on. I'm a full human being here. I'll show you. I'll show all of them. And she will.
There's one other line that came up there that I really like, and it's like, I think especially of these characters, I liked that you can kind of pinpoint and say, okay, well, this is this character. You know, you can look at, you know, Haruka, and you can say, oh, she's Genki Girl, and it's like, okay, that's the character that she is, and yet there is a lot more richness and nuance to it that's been built up between all the different media, the game, the anime, Million Live, etc. And it bums me out a little bit that as you get into what we will probably touch on in the future, to be named and to be actually recorded Idol podcast, in Cinderella Girls, a lot of those characters actually do kind of boil down to that something that's more myopic, and that richness is lost.
There's just so many of them.
Yeah, there's so many. There's so many. So Cinderella Girls was marketed predominantly as a mobile game, and correspondingly there is a huge cast to that game. Not all of them are even voiced, and a lot of them do boil down to, okay, you know, there needs to be a rare level character that you can roll, and there are very rich characters in it, but something about returning to this series in particular, there's something in the way these characters are portrayed that is just, it's like, they're meaty. And we could sit here and we just talked for 20 minutes about Makoto and one element of Makoto's character without talking about anything that actually happens. Never mind Takane or Hibiki or Iori or the twins, Ami and Mami, who you can even talk about. There's a whole episode about them being different and how the fact that one of them is picked for the subunit and the other is not, and how that challenges their dynamic. It's good. It is so good, and the characters are so good.
It's so good. It's also good, I'm saying this kind of more for Nick's behalf, is coming in as a newcomer. Ami and Mami in the original game, Olsen twinned it out and performed as one idol under Ami's name. You produced both of them, but they went out on different days. So that arc about them being different is significant, not only in what it means to the show, but also just in terms to the characters, how they progressed from 2005, when the franchise started, to 2011, when the anime aired. You know, it's all about them kind of coming into their own and being different. And I think that's really cool. To round up my top three, I'm going to give a shout out to my girl Azusa. I have a really weird top three.
No.
Azusa, Makoto, and Yayoi.
It's absolutely perfect. Everyone is
all
perfect.
over the place. I love it. I think Azusa is such a sweetie. I love her daydreamy self. I love that you could spin her around in the driveway 3 times and she wouldn't know how to get back home. I'm the same way. I feel that. Every time she's like, where's the office? I'm like, I hear you. Sometimes I still check the GPS when I go to work. I drive there every day, but I'm like, what street is it? What? So, I love that. I love that she's kind of like, she's the eldest of the All-Stars cast, but she clearly is also kind of, sometimes she's the adult, sometimes she needs an adultier adult, like when she gets lost on the street. And my gosh, she just can't stop helping people. There's just something so magnetic about her. I love that scene in her episode where she's running down, holding the ring with the flowers behind her, and there's all these people chasing her because they're like, oh my gosh, like, what a lady. What a lady.
And she's all just the doing her thing. She's so effortless.
She doesn't even try.
And I love it. I love it so much.
Good. And I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. I am. So I do like her whole shtick of like, if I perform, somebody will come my way and find me. And I think it's also important to have that kind of like, you know, she enjoys performing and singing, but she wants to make connections. Idols to her aren't just about, you know, the product or the performances, but it's all about the connections she makes along the way. And I love that I also love that she says in the first episode, you know, she mentions like, oh, I think I'll give it about 5 years. You know, she has this kind of idea of, I'm going to do this. It's going to be something, you know, that's part of my life. And then I'll go about and see what journey is next. It's a very interesting ephemeral view on the whole thing, which is how a lot of idols work, so I appreciate that perspective in her character. And every time I hear Tonari ni, I cry so hard. So hard. So hard. It's such a good song.
What I think is really cool about her character is that they mention that she is kind of, I don't want to say looking for love, but that she is kind of, hey, I really, you know, kind of mentions, hey, you know what, I'm going to keep doing this, and maybe someone will notice me, and maybe we'll make a connection, and maybe a relationship will start. And I feel like it would have been so easy to write that as her not being desperate, but like, do you know where I'm coming from? And that she's trying too hard to find somebody, but in this case, she's like, hey, you know what?
It would be so easy to make Christmas cake jokes about her, like a lot of other anime do.
And they don't, and they treat her. I love the way that they handle Chihaya, or I'm sorry, Azusa.
You're doing the thing.
It's okay. We've talked about a lot of names.
You're confusing the blue haired girls.
I know. But no, I think the way that they handle her in that regard is very good, and something I was actually super happy to see.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in fairness, the oldest of the All Stars cast, I mean, she's like 22.
She's like 21 and I remember when I got into this series, I was like, yeah, 21, and now I'm 28, and I'm like, oh my god, Azusa's 21.
I mean,
that's not my big sister anymore.
I mean, I'm
31 in a month and a half. What up?
I'm 31, so I watched this series, and I was her age. So now looking back on it, I'm like, you baby, you absolute child.
Passing your favorite idols in age is a very unique bitterness to being a longtime Idolmaster fan. So I'm gonna need some more 30 plus characters to get voiced Cinderella girls. Chop chop.
I think there's only one. There's at least last I remember, there's only one that's 31, and she's like the worst and least functional alcoholic. So things don't bode well for me.
Shino Hiraki. God bless her.
Like, what is it? Like, part of her character trait is that her producer lets her perform drunk because she does it better.
Fair.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a darkness in like the overarching meta, like the Idolmaster cinematic universe, where the older they get become progressively less functional alcoholics.
Honestly, and then
just like real life.
Yeah.
And then you have Nana Abe, who pretends to be a 17-year-old, and
you can
see her in the background of all the.
She is.
See her in the background of all the cards because she's only 17 with her juice, looking at her 20+ comrades like. Great.
So, for Nick's edification, there's a character in Cinderella Girls where her shtick is that she is a princess from the planet Usamin, and that she is eternally 17, and then...
It takes about an hour by train to get to planet Usamin.
Just an hour by train. That's all it takes. But there's I want to say a drama CD segment where a voicemail from her mom comes up on her phone that reminds her to go vote, and you definitely have to be older than 17 to vote in Japan.
Oh my god.
Her mom, like, calls her in the anime adaptation and is like, it's time to come home So you definitely are like, ooh, ooh.
Another one of the characters that's definitely like 25, 26 also refers to her as senpai. So it's the writing's on the wall that Nana is definitely probably in her late 20s, if not older.
Sugar Heart does. Yeah, she's great.
My favorite part about just all of that information is just, it takes about an hour by train to get to her home planet.
I think that's like part of the song, like Planet Usamine, an hour by train. Or like it's either that or it's part of the interlude that she does at concerts talking about it. It's very good.
She's the greatest. The world needs character idols.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Amen.
But yeah, like, clearly there's just so much to talk about with the entire cast. Even trying to hold ourselves back from getting into the new characters, which I can't resist because I love them all. That was still like, yeah, there's a lot of meat there. There's so much.
We talked about
so
like 3 characters. We talked about Makoto, we talked about Yukiho, we talked about Yayoi, we talked about Azusa. We talked about Takane's vibes. We haven't talked about Chihaya, and a lot of that comes up in season 2.
Takane and Takane's vibes are 2 separate characters. There's too much for just one character.
I mean, who else? Like, there's everything with Miki as well. Again, Miki and Chihaya are... Yeah. If and when we do this for season 2, there are a lot of things I have to say about both of those characters and where they go.
Mm-hmm.
Miki especially, who is the character I hated for a very long time.
Really?
A lot of people did.
Well,
and I
in season 1, to keep in mind her arc, and you'll see also where she goes in season 2. Season 1, her arc is that she doesn't care and she sleeps all the time. And then she like has a misunderstanding with the producer, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna try now, Nano."
Quits.
And then she just becomes like this superstar, greater than everyone, just like overnight. In a series where you have characters like Yayoi and Yukiho who fail and struggle and have real barriers, Miki is just like, the only barrier for me is that I just wasn't trying before. She's like the Itachi from Naruto, where they're like, Miki, how did you become so strong? It's like, to test my abilities.
I just...
She really is. And I also, it really rackled me at first too, like, why does Miki get to be so good? And to be fair, part of that, I did also appreciate her more when I went back to the games with, like, the language knowledge required to actually play those games, and getting a little bit more of her in depth. But Miki is really a character who, like, nobody has told this girl no in her entire life.
Yeah.
Hoshi Miki, at age 15, is learning the word no. And it's really bothering her. Because she is so good. I'm so good. Why would I not be able to do anything I want? Because I'm so good.
Why wouldn't I be in this new group that's being formed? I should be in there.
I should be in the group. I want to be in the group.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she is a needed kind of point of contention within the full cast. Sometimes there are those people who just get it, who can memorize choreography really, really fast. And I do think, she's a fascinating character to look at going into the second core, and where she goes, and what she represents to a lot of her co-stars, co-workers.
I'm thinking about the conversation we'll have, and I'm actually getting chills, because it is so good. It's so good. I hated her the first time I watched this. The second time I watched the series, she was for a while in my top 3 because of where she goes.
That's what it means.
And like you said, what she represents comes to represent, especially in the series, of I'm just fucking good at this and we can't all be winners.
I also think that
Miki popping up, yo, I'm fucking nice though.
But it would be like, I'm fucking nice now.
Fucking body.
I am the Hoshimiki defender. I also think they do some really cool stuff with kind of the inverse of her arc in Shiny Colors, which one day we'll get an anime adaptation, and one day I'll never shut up about it again when it does, because that series is wonderful. Shiny Moss also has a character who grew up being the I'm fucking nice though of her tiny small town.
Ooh.
And comes to Tokyo.
Ooh.
And is like, oop! Oop!
Oh, I love it.
Oh! And she's great.
Oh, damn. There's one last thing before we got the topic of Miki, because
we might need to wrap. We've been doing this for an hour.
We do.
Oh, God, it flew!
The
I love
last
this.
thing I want to get in real quick.
Yes.
When y'all were like, yeah, people used to hate Miki because she just like, she didn't work hard for things. Everyone else is busting their ass. And meanwhile, I'm over here like, yeah, for me as someone who's first meeting this character in their 30s, I'm like, damn, you can just sleep whenever? That sounds amazing. I wish I could do that. It was like wish fulfillment. Like I could I could get a full 8 nights of sleep vicariously through watching someone else who was sleeping all the time. I was like, damn, I wish I had that skill. Yeah, the singing and dancing's cool. I just wish I could sleep all the time. Damn.
Tell me about it. I slept for 4 hours last night.
Oh god. All Hoshimiki do is eat onigiri, sleep, and say nano.
Nano.
Eat hot chip and lie.
Also, my honey. Nani, my honey.
I think this is probably a good time and place to wrap it up before we go on for.
I could go another hour.
Oh yeah, I know. We could probably go on for a very long time.
Go several more
Morgan
hours.
is about to die from sleep deprivation. I don't want that to happen.
Let's go to bed, y'all.
Maybe at some point in the future we can do a season 2. We'll all rewatch that.
We're going to do a season 2. I'm going to make it happen.
Okay. Yes.
Just call
happy to hear that. Obviously, no promises on we're going to do a date for that yet, but very happy to do that. And go watch Idolmaster. If somehow you made it through this episode and you didn't actually watch season 1, but you listened anyway, first of all, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I hope this episode kind of sold you on the show if the last one somehow didn't. It's worth your time, though. I want to thank, of course, Morgan and Juliana for being on. Juliana, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at JubiPro. That's JUBIPRO.
Morgan, where can people find you?
You can find me on twitter.com at Morganization13.
And you can find me on Twitter at lamo_SD. For whatever reason, I half forget what my Twitter at is immediately in the seconds preceding me having to say it.
That's why my name is in
Which
it.
is never a good sign. Smart. Anyway, again, thank you so much for listening. Check out the podcast. Obviously, you're checking out the podcast. Check us out on the Discord. Check us out on the Yase store, on the Twitch channel. You can find all that info. Go to yase.world. We got it all there for you, laid out nice and pretty. We'll be back at you again next week, another episode of the YASEcast. And still then, I was going to say something from Idolmaster. I was going to say, what's a good Idolmaster line to close us out on? What's a good Idolmaster closer?
Clearly, it's Namako Pro Phyto.
It's
Namako Pro Phyto.
Namako Pro,
sure.
I'm putting my hand in on the webcam. Yes. We are holding hands. We are cheering. Namako Pro Phyto.
Oh! All right, y'all. See you. Take it easy, and we'll be back at you again next week.